Start recording.
Yes.
I am recovering from bronchitis. I had bronchitis about 2 weeks
no.
ago, and it's just sort of like residual. So I'm not coughing nearly as much as I was, but I might be coughing a little bit here and there. So just bear with
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry you had that. Did you have to take off work?
No, I
You said-
didn't.
You poor thing.
Well, it was like the last day of it was the last day of of my trip is when I started feeling bad, and then I had like 5 days off, and that was like the worst of it. And then I figured I would just go back to work and just suck it up. And I wasn't coughing nearly as much, but in the mornings and at night, that's when it was really bad. And I
feel
had
you.
bronchitis before. I don't know if you remember, Natalie, but senior year track, the week before spring break, like days before spring break, I came down with bronchitis and strep at the same time. And
Oh
like
no.
3 other people on the team had it at the same time. And it's such a memorable time in my life because I was so feverish. And it was a beautiful day. I remember it was like this absolutely gorgeous day. It was the first nice day of track
That's the
season.
worst.
And I was like shivering. And I remember laying down on the warm track. And Coach Horn, remember Erin Horn? She was the
Yeah.
hurdle coach at the time. And she was like, "Are
She
you
ha-
okay?"
she
And I
has
was like,
the-
"I'm
she
just
has-
really cold." And she was like, "Well, it's a beautiful day. What's going on?" And I said, "I think I have a fever." And I went home and I had like a fever 102 or something. It was terrible.
Oh no. I don't remember you dying on the track, sadly.
Well, because then we all went to spring break and I went on a bunch of college campus visits with my mom. And so we did this whole like East Coast tour. We went all the way down to coastal Carolina and worked our way back up. And it was like I had an inhaler and couldn't take like a full breath. It was terrible. I don't know why I did that, but
Yeah, I still remember the time I had strep as the worst I've ever felt. Well, actually, no, when I got COVID, that was pretty bad. They're almost similar.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
strep is never fun. I had that a few times growing
Mhm.
up.
Yeah.
Julia, did you know that Coach Erin, she has triplets?
I think I heard that or I saw it on Facebook. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I hope she's doing okay.
Yeah, she had 2 kids and then triplets, and I think she made like a social media post about it. And it was kind of funny because it's like I was terrified at first, like this is not what we wanted. Now I feel all the joy and love.
Oh God, yeah.
So she was pregnant twice, but 5 kids total.
Yeah, like they wanted a third and ended up their third pregnancy having triplets.
Oh wow.
I'd be pissed. I'll be
I know
honest.
that's what I used to like. I used to want twins when I was younger, but now I'm like, Josh, like, no, like
Yeah.
one child will be plenty at a time. That's actually like interesting. I was like for the book, I'm a cat mother. I'm not like a human mother yet, but I was wondering like if someone read the book that like is that has human children, I think that would have really been like a good
Yeah.
perspective
Yeah,
to
neither
hear.
of us have kids.
I was
So.
curious about that too because I found it hard sometimes to relate. So I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be curious what my mom thinks about it. What did you think about this, Mom?
Yeah.
Raising me back in the day. Okay, let's talk about this book. I literally just finished it today. And so everything is sort of fresh in my mind. And I do have a little sheet here, a little questions sheet, and we'll just do a little something for that. Yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. It's just the 3 of us, so we don't have to make this anything super intense, but Natalie, I'll let you go first. You want to share your like initial thoughts, what comes to your mind when you think of this book?
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. It was like weird because like I enjoyed reading it, but I was also like had all these other emotions. It's like very sad and disturbed and like what is this society? Because they don't really like mention in the book like what year it is or like where
No,
this is compared to us. So like that was really hard to gauge. It was like I was like talking to Josh, I was like, is this like something our government's gonna like implement in, like 20 years, 50 years, kind of thing. So it just really made me think about like how this like applies to um our present like society and how like ridiculous so many things were. And like I don't even have, like I said, I don't have human children. I have um like I'm a cat mom, but that's very different. So yeah, I liked it. I thought the ending was really unexpected. I hated it. It's
I feel like the end should have been in the middle.
yeah, like I definitely wanted more at the
Mhm.
end. I'm not surprised that she kidnapped her daughter at the end because I feel like if I was in her situation, I would totally do the same thing. But the ending, it's like the very ending is like so short. It ends like the finale in like 2 paragraphs, and I just really like wanted to hear more from the author. So yeah,
okay.
what an interesting read.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, Daniela, what are your initial thoughts? How do you feel?
I am kind of on the fence because it was written in a way that kept me wanting to read it. So it's in that way I feel like a good book, but a lot of it upset me because there was parts where I wanted, like Natalie was saying, I wanted more. Like even when she had her hearings, like we don't really get details, we just get like after what happens. So there's some parts where I'm like, I wanted more. The ending I felt should have been in the middle and then like to know what happens after that. But yeah, I think the way it was written, I liked it because it kept me engaged, but I didn't necessarily love the story. And a lot of it when they're in the school, I just kept thinking like this, even if it was a dystopian future, like it just didn't sound right. I don't know. It was just like this is not possible. Like this cannot be happening. But in the end, I want to say it's somewhere like in the middle for me.
Yeah, okay,
Mhm.
okay. I feel kind of similar to the way that you two feel about the book. Like, there were some aspects of it that I really liked, and just the whole sort of unbelievable part of it, that it's there were some things that were said, and just the whole premise of the school itself just seems so insane to me. And that's what kept me intrigued, was just wanting to know all of the insane things that the
Mhm.
teachers and the counselors and what society in general thought about these bad moms and trying to make them good moms. But on the other side, it was like, I just felt like it was very matter of fact, like there wasn't a lot of
Explanation.
emotion behind how she was writing it.
Mhm.
My mom just texted me, I'm sorry, she just texted me, I am reading as fast as I can. I'm on page 180.
You're gonna try to read and
You should
join.
join.
What page she's on page 180.
You
Okay.
should tell her if she joins, so you don't have to finish the book to be a
Yeah.
part of the conversation.
I know, but
We
oh
can keep
gosh, that's gonna be
spoilers to
hard
a
trying not to
minimum.
spoil it for her. That's funny that she said that. I'm reading as fast as I can. Okay,
Well,
well, you can join if you
Yeah.
want to.
yeah,
I'd like
tell her
to hear her thoughts.
we want the mom perspective. We need it.
Everyone wants to see you.
My mom's a bad mom. She didn't read the book.
That's funny that she just texted me that. Yeah, I was like, well, you have a whole day and a half to read this book, so good luck.
Mhm.
But anyways, what I was saying was, yeah, it's sort of like, it was very matter of fact writing. It didn't seem like there was all this emotion behind it. It was just kind of like, this is what's happening. And Frida has to do this, and there wasn't a lot of, I mean, you're not getting a lot of insight into how everyone is reacting and feeling, and it's just sort of like cut and dry type of writing.
Yeah, I would have loved to have heard more thoughts and insights from the women in charge, like of the program, and the ladies in the pink coats, and
yeah. Totally different than Kindred, and I'm not going to give away anything about Kindred, but Kindred was very dialogue driven, very emotional, and there was a lot of more like nuanced writing with that book, whereas this one, the dialogue was very thinned out. It was more like I'm poolside in Phoenix, but I will try.
Nice.
Yeah, jealous. Yeah, so two very different writing styles between Kindred and the School for Good Mothers. One was very sort of lush and dense, and this one is a little more just sort of factual, black and white kind of thing. But so yeah, it was kind of like I'm kind of right in the middle too. It's just, there were some things that I really liked, and there's some things that I really did not necessarily like, and that that prevented me from like wanting to keep reading.
was this Jessica Chan's first novel?
I don't know.
I think it might be, the back of the book said that she had some essays, or she had
Yeah,
like
like it didn't
something.
mention anything like other that she's written, so
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this might be her debut novel. So not bad for a first
Mhm.
novel. I mean, she's getting praise of it being similar to The Handmaid's Tale,
Mhm.
having that sort of dystopian future type storyline. Yeah, I don't think she's written any other books, just essays and things for magazines and stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Well, it's good to know that we're all on the same page. It's fine. It's always nice to have people who think completely different. I know Heather can't be here, but she told me she emailed me early this morning, and she was just like, I'm so excited to oh, my mom's here. Hello, Mom. She's like, I'm just so excited to know what everyone thinks of it, because she thought it was totally insane. I think that might be a direct quote from her.
So I have to admit, at one point, I actually went to the back and read from back to front.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, I'm like, I can't. I think it was when she had been at the school for a while, and I was just like, okay, where is it going? Like, I need to know. So I just went to the end. I read the end, and I'm like, okay, now I want to know how we got there.
Okay, you're that type of reader. All right. Hi, Mom.
Hey,
Poolside in Phoenix.
sunshine looks so
I
nice.
just got I just got the book yesterday
Yeah, that's what I told them.
from the Barnes and Noble, and I'm on page 180.
Yeah, a little
I've been
180.
just flying through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty fascinating.
What part are you at? What did you last read about?
Let's see. Frida is she hasn't seen her daughter Harriet in, I don't know, 4 months or something. She just missed her daughter's birthday.
Mm.
And Lucretia, or she's gone, she left.
Yeah, Lou left.
And Linda, they're all still there. They shoveled snow, and they've progressed from they're in where they're trying to learn how to nurture their kids when they're sick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's a really good quote that I wrote down during that section. That was on page 173. Something that I thought was just such a completely insane thing for somebody to say, and just say it with such conviction. Ms. Curry, this is on page 173. A mother's love can cure most common illnesses.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it true?
I know.
I mean, I believe a mother's love can't help or can't hurt, but to cure,
Yeah, that's a good, I thought about that too. There's pretty fascinating, all the things that she says.
Oh, page 180. Oh yeah, I thought there were some really, really insane things that happened on page 180.
We
we'll
really
get to-
wanted to have a mother's perspective on what you thought about the book.
Oh yeah, it's I don't know, it's just so outlandish to think that you have to go to school to learn all these things. But I haven't figured out if I think it's an evil thing, or if it's a good thing, or I mean, the irony of being away from your child for 2.5 hours versus being taken away from them for at least a year of going to school, that of her going to the school. I mean, that's just crazy to be punished like this for a 2.5 hour absence. I mean, that's significant, but not to be pushed away from your child for that long. From a mother's perspective, I don't know. I feel like I have to keep reading and reading and reading to figure out, like, which way is this going to go? Is she going to get better? But I feel like she's a good mother. Yeah. I mean, she is a good mother. Everybody's different as a mother. Do you let your children play independently? I always thought that children should play independently, not have too much, mother initiated playtime and things like that, because then they get too clingy. So I thought it would also be interesting for those that don't have children to read it, and maybe there's lots of things you can learn in it. But it's, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I found it interesting that there's such a spectrum of the moms that are in this school. Like, obviously there's some that might have been abusive, but then you have those that had their kids taken away for just like regular, maybe not regular, but like innocuous things, things that are maybe not that big of a deal, or they were even being good moms by disciplining their children in some way. I guess it depends on how you do that, but yeah, I found it so interesting that they would lump them all together when it's such a range of what they need to learn. And for them to be, like you mentioned, 1 year is so long. I feel like even the moms that maybe were more abusive towards their children, like they could probably learn to be different in less time if it was actually effective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so long.
Yeah, that is a long time. And you're right that the other woman that's there because she put her 5 or 6 children in a hole or something. That's pretty crazy.
And then another woman that was there for her offense, posting her child have a tantrum on social media, which, like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
to put those two mothers like through the same school. I was actually thinking like, why is it even called like a school when like at the end of this like program that it's not even like a guarantee that you get your child back.
Mhm. Right. It does seem to be extremely disciplinary, not being able to even, call your child. It's also very interesting how she perceives the woman, Susanna, and, all of a sudden she's being called mommy, and she feels threatened by that.
Mhm.
And she should feel threatened by that, because that's these are things that she should work out with her husband, and she should have a little bit more privacy, I feel like. What
Yeah.
year is this? Have you talked about that?
Yeah, Natalie brought it up. I think Natalie probably said it best, is that we just don't know. Like, we don't know. There's nothing that indicates that it's some futuristic society. I mean, it sounds like they're driving cars. It sounds like their houses are pretty normal and sound like the houses that we live in now. There's just that added sort of Big Brother surveillance that's happening. So it could take place in the future. It could take place sort of like in this timeline. And it's interesting because I just saw this article, the statistic that says in the 1970s, the free range that children had unsupervised from their parents was like a 2-mile radius, right? A child could go out into the world, which was statistically much more dangerous for a child than it is today. 2 miles of unsupervised, sort of free range, doing their own thing on their bikes, going to visit their friends and everything. And today it is 200 square feet.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you kind of attribute that to the fact that there are people who refuse to mind their own business when it comes to other children, and how their children want to explore their neighborhood, explore their their community without having their parents directly there watching them, up until a certain age. And I think about my childhood and where where I grew up in the woods in Pennsylvania, and I wouldn't be home unless it was time to eat. I would be in the backyard. I would be across the street at the pond. I would be playing in the stream, and of course that all has to deal with where exactly you grow up. But, if you, now I feel like it would be probably different, that there wouldn't be that much free range for me, because there'd probably be somebody who would say, that kid is not doing what they're supposed to do, and I'm gonna skirt all of this other stuff, and I'm just gonna call CPS. Like, I'm just gonna call CPS. And so I think there's like probably a buildup to this type of society where you have people calling CPS for children that are playing in their own backyards, which is one of the moms in this book. See, she had a nosy neighbor who called CPS because the mom wasn't physically in the backyard with her kid, and they thought that was a bad mothering. So to me, it doesn't seem like it would be that far in the future, based on how things are trending with raising a child and mothering a child, and just like people not necessarily minding their own business.
Yeah, and there'd probably be a lot more people in that type of school because they'd be getting referrals from the school system, which is where most of the interventions come from, especially among girls, and the ones who harm themselves and or try to talk to a teacher. Well, it's not getting any better really, as far as students being able to confide in their teachers.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in a childcare facility. Mom, you've worked in a childcare facility, and sort of like the biggest thing that's on everyone's mind is CPS going to get called? Like that's, like, is CPS going to show up? Are they going to be with their little clipboard, making sure that we have enough teachers in every classroom, that we have a fully stocked first aid kit, that we are like, just checking all of the boxes that CPS looks at. And then on top of that, having CPS called for any number of reason from a parent or another staff member, or even like an outsider, someone who's like looking at the facility. We had a guest come in who was looking to send their kid to our child care
Creepy Josh.
facility. Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Josh. Looking to send their kid to the child care facility, and they wanted to do a tour, and I led the tour. I did the tour, doing it the same way, show them all the same stuff. And the next day, this man sent the most scathing email saying that he's like threatening to call CPS because of all the things that he noticed. And it was like, all of a sudden we had to put out this fire, this guy is threatening to call CPS for all this stuff that he has no idea why things are actually the way that they are. And so we had to like tell him, well, this is the reason why we do this, and it's because of fire safety and prevention. Then the fire marshal has literally told us we have to do it this way, and X, Y, and Z. And eventually he emailed back, he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, my bad. And we were just like, well, we don't want you to be coming to our facility. So
Wow.
that's just a little side story, but like that's just kind of how high strung people can be. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, this honestly can't be that far in the future. Just has to kind of be.
Yeah, I don't think it's that far in the future. And I had thought about artificial intelligence with the dolls.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like they seemed like they are kind of the robots that we all know and understand. Like they have their faults, they're not perfect beings. Frida says that she can hear clicks and things don't seem quite human like, where if it was like so far in the future, maybe it would be difficult to differentiate between a robot child and a human child, whereas in this case there's obvious faults and things that make it not real and a little more difficult to manage in terms of like maintenance and stuff.
So I did for a time work as a behavioral interventionist. So we worked with kids that were on the autism spectrum, and we would work with the parents on how to manage behaviors with them. So one of the things I thought about when they introduced the robots in the story was how pointless it was to have robots, because they could take that time to have the mothers work with their own children. So, bring the children in for a few hours and have them actually like work with, the pink lab people, and like observe how the moms are with their children and practice that way, instead of just like, it just seems so wasteful to like separate them for so long and then create or spend all this money on like this AI where it's still faulty because it's not, reality. And it might even for some mothers, right, like maybe affect if the robot isn't working or whatever, it might affect them.
Yeah.
Causing their, their progress to be different. So yeah, like with that mindset, as I was reading it, I was just thinking like, there's so many better ways to scientifically do this. And like, this is not it.
It seems that like they never really talked about the plan for mothers who did get their children back, but it seems like they would have more of like a integration probation period if a mother was able to get her child back. I don't know if that would look more like supervised and if the mother would have the child the whole time, but yeah, that's like such a long time period and time frame to have them apart for.
Mhm. And then to use that as punishment, like for the most tiniest little mistakes and things like that, they just be like, oh, well, you don't get phone privileges this week because you did. Like you weren't hugging your fake child in an assertive but not too dominating way, like I felt like no matter what these mothers did, they weren't gonna win. There was no
Right.
way. There was no path to succeed.
I wonder why like the program was so extreme though. Like if they really wanted to have this like a school and teach these mothers lessons, like to make them better mothers, like for their children, like why set them up for failure?
Yeah, I don't know, but that is the question. And mom, you said it really, like, to the juxtaposition of you put your child in danger for for all of these different reasons, and the way that we're going to punish you is by taking you away from your child for an entire year and punishing you for the most asinine of reasons, and then saying over and over again that you're a bad mom, and that there's nothing.
Yeah,
there's
it's
nothing
terrible. And it ruins your I mean it takes away the whole bonding experience for children, and if they're younger, they would have no memory of you. So, but they would realize that they missed you, but they wouldn't really understand their emotion. I mean, that's a good point, Daniela, about, I didn't really think about that. It would have been better to have them have training with their child, much more supportive. But it seems like it's like a guinea pig program, that somebody invested a lot of money, and that these mothers are just kind of the guinea pigs of a new kind of institutionalized training system. So and the author is Chinese, is that right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the Chinese culture is for child rearing, or if that has anything to do with it.
You'll probably learn about that later on in the book. She does go into that.
What her experience.
How her Chinese parents and their way of raising Frida had effects on how Frida raised, and or like more of like a cultural shift between how her parents raised her and how she, as an I think she was born in America, so she's an American born Chinese, and she has to take what she's learned from her parents, and she has to take what she's learned from being in America and try to marry the two, which are very, very different, raising your child as a Chinese immigrant And we all know that. We read the Joy Luck Club, and we know that there's a huge disconnect between Chinese born
Mother of the mother.
immigrants and their American born daughters, children.
Right.
And how those cultures just clash so much. So I won't talk about that too much because you definitely will read it later on in the
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I was
So-
wondering how much it came from like personal experience, like trickled throughout the book, because Jessica, she does have a daughter.
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh, she does.
hmm Yeah, she just has one child, at least when she wrote the book.
It's her first novel. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
were
it was
talking
probably
about
just
that
an
earlier.
idea, you know, it was just an idea that came to her head. And
But she's, I mean, it's a page turner. It's not always the case.
It really gets you hooked, and I tend to not like books that get right into it, because I like to get like a little bit of the background and build up whatever. But I was telling them earlier that I think I read half of it on the first day that I got it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I have to take a break. But it was very interesting because I don't know, I can't pinpoint exactly what, if it's the writing style or just, I think it's the subject matter that is really like interesting. It keeps you engaged because I couldn't like really pinpoint like what is it that
Mhm.
makes it so good. But then as you're reading it, you're like, oh, I don't really like what it's saying.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
yeah, just that very, you just like, I don't want to know what happens because I know it's going to be awful, but I have to know what happens. So here we go. So Mom, it's funny that you mentioned that you're on page 180 because I thought there was two really, really good, really disturbing paragraphs on page 180. I don't know, we probably have the same, probably translates to be on the same page that you are on, but
Let me look. Right after, it's the beginning of chapter 11. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second page. There's the paragraph that starts, though the mothers were indeed graded on a curve. These two paragraphs, I was like, oh my gosh, what? This is the most insane thing I've ever read. Though the mothers were indeed graded on a curve, and while Frida's maternal instincts have improved, both quantitative and qualitative measures kept Frida out of the top two. Anxiety remains a problem. A lack of confidence, the counselor said, moments of hesitation that in aggregate will impede a child's sense of security. Frida's motherese, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that word, during the feeding test, though joyful, was insufficiently empowering. Other mistakes were more significant. She pressed too hard on Emmanuel's breastbone as she delivered CPR, at first missing the spot where a real heart would have been. Harriet is doing fine, the counselor said. I spoke to Ms. Torres a few days ago. She thinks having a break from calling you has been good for Harriet, and I agree. Have you ever considered that speaking to you and seeing you like this, maybe re-traumatizing her? You're not looking well, Frida. You need to start taking better care of yourself. Like, oh my God, that is,
Yeah.
like, again, how can you succeed in an environment that tells you those things?
Right.
Like, oh, that little moment of hesitation means that you're a bad mom. And the fact that your feeding was joyful, but not empowering enough. So you're a bad mom and you don't deserve to have your kid. And, and maybe you not speaking to your child is good for her, you know, like, oh gosh,
Wow,
couldn't believe
it's
that.
angering, isn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
when I was reading it, I was thinking like all these factors and principles from like a mother's perspective. Do you really do you think about this like when you're mothering and parenting? Do you like do all these considerations like come into your head and it's like there's just so
Well,
many factors.
well, it's kind of interesting because parenting and mothering is just instinctual. And but to have it broken down and analyzed like this, I mean, gosh, that you would be so overcome with anxiety that you wouldn't be able to make decisions at all. I mean, you would totally just implode on yourself. So it's really bad that they have these standards, because every mothering is individual, you know. It's just mothering a child, each child is different. And so mothering is it's but to see it broken down like this, insufficiently empowering, that's, yeah, I see what she's saying, I see what she's getting at, but yeah, it really makes you mad.
Well, it's like turning mothering into standardized testing, you know?
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
same way that teachers teach to a standard so that at the end of the year, they can have these standardized tests and
Mhm.
and the students pass them. And so you're not teaching to learn, you're teaching to pass and stuff like that. So you know, it's like you're taking this really amoebic thing, you know, mothering and being a parent is very amoebic. It's always changing, always, it's never going to be the same. Even if you have more than one child, every child is different and you have to mother them differently. But I feel like with the school that they created, which is an imperfect school, I know we were talking about that before, like it seems like this is a guinea pig type institution. She talks about how there are faults, like there are things that they're it's an imperfect system and they're trying to make it better, and so they're all kind of figuring it out along the way. But you know, they're just standardizing this really unstandardized
It's
thing.
definitely an art, not a science.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're turning this very
I
artistic.
mean, yeah, even and if you go back to my mother's generation, you know, like fathers, my father, everybody's father, at my age, your father didn't read stories to you. You didn't hardly sit on your father's lap, because they went to work and they came home and they ate dinner and then they watched television or read the newspaper. But now my son, he's very involved with children. So, but it's what I was used to. It's what I adjusted to. You don't know, if you don't have it, if you don't experience it, you don't miss it. So, you can ask my generation, well, how did you relate to your father then if he wasn't reading books to you and he wasn't hugging you? He didn't say, I love you all the time. And I guess, people say, well, I just got that from my mother. It was the mothers who did that, wasn't the fathers. So in reading this book, I started to question, a lot of things that I hadn't ever really thought about. Like, in your moments of hesitation will impede a child's sense of security. Whoa. Is that true? I don't know.
And
If
I'm
that's
glad
true, then we're all screwed.
we're all screwed up. I'm glad you brought up the dad because I feel like, oh, what's the husband's name? Gust.
Gust,
I
yeah.
feel like he should have also been like sent to dad school or something because he left the home when the baby was 3 months old. And I understand he left because they didn't want to be married anymore, but I feel like that is also like hard for the
It's
child.
it's kind of a sexist thing to do, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
you can just leave, and then now she has to split the time of the child who's like a baby, and it I feel like traumatizes the child to have to be coming and going so young, where he could have just like, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's hard to say, but he could have stayed in the home, maybe not slept over, but at least spent more time there so that they didn't have to split her up that way so young.
Yeah, right. And they also at the school, they wonder what the dad school is like. Because they figured that it's not like this at all. Like they get a lot more time to themselves. They are they get to probably read the newspaper, all these things that sort of kind of old school or old fashioned thinking. That part of it really doesn't seem to have changed too much with the times.
Yeah, I think there's still that standard in parenting where you expect more from the mother than, or in society, we expect more from the mom than the dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're expecting perfection in this case, which there's never been a perfect mother. There's never been a perfect mother. And that was
Yeah.
like, that is sorry, mom, you're a great mom, but
Yeah, right.
But-
But if everybody was perfect, I mean, it would be awful. It would be terrible. There wouldn't be nobody would be any individuals, or look at the poets and the artists who's most of them came from had very troubled childhoods, and they turned to writing or music as sort of self-soothers. So I don't know, but the book definitely raises lots of questions about that.
With perfect mothers, we'd all be dolls.
What?
With perfect mothers, we would all be dolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just be dolls.
Robot
Yeah.
dolls.
Yeah.
Perfect children.
There was one thought I had where I thought that the idea of a school would be good, but for like the worst cases, like because there was a few cases in LA County of children that did pass away because they were being abused, and CPS repeatedly failed to actually remove them because they didn't want to remove them from the parent. But a lot of the times sometimes it is, but it's not the parent that ends up killing them. It's like a boyfriend or another family member. And I don't know, it is interesting because I thought, this would really be good for like CPS people to go through, because they're the ones that are not actually doing their jobs by not removing kids that are in real harm. Either because they don't care or they have too many cases. Like I know in the book it says that she had to keep her appointment, was getting rescheduled because the social worker was too busy, and it's like, that's unacceptable. Like you're depriving this mom and this child from having that time together, and it's just because you're busy. Like,
And Frida was still getting punished for that. Like she was the one being punished, and that caseworker, she never apologized. She never admitted that she was late and it caused her time to be smaller or anything like that. It was just like, this is the way it is, and it's because you're a bad mom, you know, like that's just kept going back to that, and that was
Yeah.
a really frustrating part of the book.
Yeah, it was frustrating. It's a good word.
All right, yeah, well, there's some really good thoughts here, some good stuff. Try not to say anything that's gonna give away anything too big past page 180.
Well, that's okay if you do.
No, I don't want to do that.
But I read about half the book in one day also.
On page,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, they just keep, they keep moving the goalposts. That's sort of like the
Oh,
thing
that's
that,
great. That's a good point. And how would you not get frustrated and angry at the system?
Mhm.
yeah, page 177. On a Sunday call, where Harriet finally has a Sunday call, and the teachers tell the ladies that they can only say I love you once and I miss you once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
And
hated
and
how
make it count,
became
ladies. Make it
scripted.
count, you know, and they spend all this time trying to teach these mothers just how to be so overly amorous and overly mothering, and then when it comes to their actual kids, they're like, you can't do anything, you're not allowed to. So, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe this would be a good program for women who are wanting to be mothers, who are pregnant, and they, you know, not something as punitive as this, but you know, a school for mothers.
Mhm.
Why does it have to be after the fact? You know,
Right.
where is, and especially in this country, women are just like thrown to the wolves when it comes to child rearing. They're given zero support. There's no, you know, on top of having like insane medical bills and not having the right health care or something like that. Then on top of that, you don't get those visits from your primary care physicians, and they're looking and making sure that everything's okay and that you're supported. It's not necessarily about the child, it's about you. Like, how are you feeling supported? What can we do to support you even more? There's, you know, in other countries like Germany, you know, they have like an incredible postpartum safety net, basically. Yeah, and it's never comes from a place of shame or inadequacy from on the parents' end or the mother's end. It always comes from a place of, we are here to help you so that you can take care of your child, and not sort of this backwards way that we do things here, or in this book. You know, you got to figure it out on your own, and if you don't, if you falter one little step, this is where you're going to go. And again, it's going to be, you're not going to have a good time. It's going to be terrible because you're a bad mom.
I thought it was so
Yeah.
extreme that they have like a registry too, and how like being a bad mom can like affect like your credit score and like buying a house. And
Yeah,
it's like
almost like, you know, a sex offender. Like they are put on the same pedestal as a sex offender.
yeah, all your neighbors would know that you're a bad mom.
Mhm.
I remember reading that and thinking, I don't think people would actually ever care that much. Like in real life, I don't know. I hope that's not our future.
I hope not either, but I mean, it's good that this book kind of helps us see if and when we ever do get to this sort of potential point in our society. Okay, so let's just, I have these list of questions here. So kind of need to move my screen a little bit, so. I can see.
I might drop out because my battery is running low. So if I do, I'll go back to my room and plug my phone in.
Okay, well, you don't have to.
I
do
might
that.
have to
You sit in
rejoin you.
your poolside. You don't have to do that if you don't.
Gotta
want.
enjoy the pool.
The sun's going down. It's getting chilly out here.
Oh no, what terribleness.
I know. It's really windy.
It was a nice day here, so I can't complain too much. Okay, so I've got 12 questions here, and I figured we'll just do like you just pick a number between 1 and 12. We'll just do it's 9:43, so we'll just do one question each, and try not to say anything that's gonna be too spoilery, but you know, do what you have to do. So yeah, we'll start with Daniela. Daniela, choose a number between 1 and 12.
7.
Number 7. Would you reread this book?
No. Oh no, not.
That's such an easy question. It's like a yes or no question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, why? There you go. Why? Why wouldn't you read it?
I think because I didn't like the ending. If the ending was different, then I would be, or even if there was like a part 2, I would read part 2. I would read like a second. Oh, we weren't supposed to talk about the ending.
No,
but
we don't know the
no, that's
ending.
okay.
You just said the ending.
Yeah.
You said exactly. Every book has an
Yeah.
ending, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if there was a sequel, I would read it, but I don't think I would reread this one.
Okay. Then it says when. It says, would you reread this book? Why? When? Well, I guess maybe if you became a mom, maybe you would read it when you became a mom again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it traumatized me.
I feel like I wouldn't read it. I feel like I just think I'm a bad mom the whole time.
Just be like, oh well,
Yeah.
I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom, and I'm learning to be good. Isn't that what they say?
It's funny because I think when you were reading the quote on page 180, it talked about anxiety. I always felt, I still kind of feel like parenting is just a bunch of anxiety, but I like how your mom mentioned that it's instinctual.
Mhm.
So like when you have it, then you'll know. So I feel like that just really changed my perspective right now, because I always just thought like that's really scary. I don't want to do it. But I guess once you're a mom, you kind of, it works out somehow.
Yeah, I think it's instinctual.
Mhm.
I think
Never
there's
thought of
some
it that way.
yeah, there's some research that's come out, or there are things that Andrew and Sarah do, my son and daughter-in-law,
Mhm.
that are I don't know if they read it in a book or, you know, but they don't like to say no to their child too often. And my mom taught me, it's like, don't ever be afraid to say no to your child.
Yeah, there's a lot of different like schools of thought when it comes to parenting.
They say
Yeah.
no thank you a lot.
Yeah.
They say no thank you. That's what they say.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you're just kind of rephrasing
yeah,
what's already there.
yeah. But yeah, don't get too discouraged.
Okay, mom, pick a number between 1 and 12, not 7.
3.
3. What were your thoughts about the robot children and the way they were used to measure parenting?
Wow. Well, I think that the whole idea is pretty sick, but yeah. I mean, I never in my wildest dream believed that they can make a doll that measures eye contact and you know, when she squeezed the baby's, when she squeezed her doll's arm and there was that little indent. It's like, I was like, oh no, it's going to be recorded and they're going to know that she did that. She's going to have to start all over again. And she realized right when she did it that she did something wrong. But it's just pretty crazy the amount of thought and it just seemed kind of evil to me, I guess.
Yeah, once I read that portion, I was like, oh man, this is about to get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst part was that they made them look like they belonged to them. Like if it was just a generic robot child, maybe, but it's like intentional to be hurtful to them.
Mhm.
That it's
Yeah, and
like,
that the blue liquid or whatever they did with that was really strange.
Mhm.
yeah,
They had
Yeah, I
to
kept
change
wondering
that
if
liquid
there
in
was
them or
like,
something, and she had to insert a speculum. I mean, I was like, what?
yeah, I kept
Yeah.
wondering like, is there a hidden meaning and message to this like blue liquid, and just like how often they reference it throughout the entire book. And
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It was, and then after they changed the fluid, which I don't even understand what that had to do with the book and what they were trying to convey through that.
Mhm.
But that was just one more thing that made it really odd. I don't know what it's like changing the oil in your car. I didn't really get it. And it made the children more distant for a while. There goes my phone. Okay.
No. Yeah, I always
Um,
thought with all the staff that they had around, like, why would the moms need to do that? It should be like the
It
staff.
was weird.
teachers.
Yeah,
But
that was just very strange.
Yeah, that was kind of a disturbing moment. Just realized that your username on here is mom.
Yeah, that's what I signed in as mom.
Very good, very good. You
Yeah.
understood the assignment. Okay, Natalie, pick a number between 1 and 12, not 3 or 7.
5.
What'd you say?
5.
5, okay. What did you feel while you were reading this book? I feel like we've answered this question, but go for it. What did you feel while you were reading this book?
I felt I enjoyed reading it, but I also felt like pretty sad like a lot reading it, because I was like I'm not a mom, but I was thinking like if I was, like how all these things are just so scrutinized in the school, and how like some of these things are like pretty like normal behaviors like moms would go through these days, from seeing how my friends and like family parents, and just like how, so yeah, that made me just sad how like reading it, just imagining like if this was the norm, like how these moms are like kind of like in prison. Like I didn't like how they revoked the voluntary policy in the beginning, and how moms like no longer like have the option. So if you don't have the option to stay in the program, like isn't that like prison?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of like mixed feelings and emotions, and I don't want to talk about the ending, but I hated the ending.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Hmm.
I don't know if I could have predicted the ending.
Oops.
Well, yeah, I mean, oh, there goes my mom. Oh, she's not here. We can talk about the
I
ending.
know we can talk. I felt like it should have been in the middle, and then like I don't know what would follow that though, because I guess it makes it clear that once she kidnaps the baby, she's gonna go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, that's implied, and I
You know
guess
what
it's-
I had a curiosity about was Susanna becomes a mom, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, what if she ends up in the school for bad moms?
Oh,
don't know.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I
She's
was
been like a
thinking like
holier than thou kind of person the entire time.
Mm,
I was thinking
And
like, how do any moms keep their children in this society? Like, you can do like
yeah, I feel
anything
like
to get your child like,
everyone would be sent to the school for
yeah,
good mothers, and then they would realize that maybe the problem isn't the problem is much deeper than what the school can provide. Maybe it was just a matter of supporting the moms.
yeah.
Okay, all right, Daniela, this is for me, I'm not gonna pick my own,
Mhm.
so you're gonna pick mine. And 1 through 12, not 3, 5, or 7, interesting.
Let's do 11.
11. How do you think this would translate into a film?
Wow.
I was thinking about that, and that this book isn't in first person. It's focused on Frida, but it's not necessarily all about Frida. You learn a lot about the different students in this school and everything. I'm not really sure. I think if it were a movie, it would probably be a little more fleshed out dystopian wise. Like it would be, there would definitely be some sort of like George Orwellian sort of aspect to it. Whereas this one, I mean, it does feel a little dystopian, but it also feels kind of more like what we know already as a society and type of, excuse me, the type of schooling that you can go through, but it's just on another level of intensity. And again, they're constantly moving the goalposts further and further back. And I feel like, have you guys ever watched or read the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I've seen the movie.
You seen
yeah, I've seen the movie. I didn't know there was a book, but that would be an interesting read.
The book is really, really good. I read it, I don't know, like 10-ish years ago. It's by Ken Kesey, and the villain in that story, Nurse Ratched. I feel like Nurse Ratched would be really at home in this story. Like there's on page 257, the counselor says something that's just so evil.
Yeah,
Um,
those counselors, if that was like therapy, like you were mentioning how like it should be like for the mothers and to help them, like they were so mean.
Yeah, she says, don't think any of us take pleasure in punishing you. Bitch, yeah, you do. You totally do. Like
And then
you
some
are
were not moms too, right?
huh?
Some of the counselors were not mothers either.
Yeah, some of them weren't, or or it wasn't ever really figured out whether or not they were, but there were like the ladies in the pink lab coats, there were a few of them that did not have children, and some of the teachers as well, and they were just like, oh well, but we can imagine what it's like, so we're gonna be the ones teaching you how to do your thing. But yeah, that statement right there was a very Nurse Ratched type. Yeah, I feel like this should be like the school for how to gaslight people. Like I feel like
Yeah.
on the other side of the coin, you have the school for good mothers, but on the other side of the coin, you have these people that are really, really good at gaslighting people, just really good at doing that, making people feel like they are the ones who are the problem and they're the insane people when not, they're just trying to be moms. But anyways, yeah, that sentence right there, I was like, oh gosh, that's such a Nurse Ratched thing to say. and she's such a terrible person in that story. So I just felt like this was like a marriage between One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Handmaid's Tale, which I haven't read yet, but a lot of people do reference that sort of dystopian landscape. And then also, it's kind of weird, but Squid Games.
I thought of that. Yeah, that came to mind.
Especially with the pink lab coats, like I was imagining the different people just standing around in their pink jumpsuits with the weird shapes on their heads. And I don't know, I was like, it's kind of like Squid Games without the whole death thing, you know?
I mean, honestly, if Jessica like put in like a whole death, like murder, like competitive situation, like I could even see that fitting in the book.
I kind of was thinking maybe it was going to go in that direction. Like there was just something so sinister about all of this that there has to be some sort of underground, you know, really evil stuff. Like this is evil, but maybe we're going to be unearthing something that is just very overtly evil.
Evil
I guess
corporation.
this never happened.
Yeah, funding it for data or something like that.
Yeah, gosh. So this book was very, every time I have these discussions, I'm like, oh yeah, well, you know what? That book is better than what I thought it was. Now that I'm listening to everyone else's thoughts and opinions on it. And I feel that way now. I mean, it's definitely a thought-provoking book. It gets people thinking a lot about, you know, just what I said earlier. Back in the day, it was you had free range as a child. You could just go wherever you wanted. You didn't have to worry about that, even when the times were a lot more dangerous to children. There were more abductions, there were more you know, just
More
there's
ways to hide.
what's that?
There's more ways you could hide. Because nowadays, like if you have your cell phone on you, like people can locate you.
Yeah, I mean, there's no privacy whatsoever these days, and you're given a phone. Kids are given phones at really early ages now because their parents are just like and it's not because of them, it's not because of who they are, it's how they would be viewed from a societal standpoint for not doing those things, you know. There was a Reddit the other day that was like, am I the asshole for wanting to call CPS on parents who are leaving their 13-year-old child at home alone for like 2 hours, and
my God, I was, like,
responding being like,
babysitting
I
other-
was babysitting other
Yeah.
kids when I was 13 years old. Like, what
Me
are
too,
you
exactly.
talking about, lady? But that's like what, you know, these things happen and they escalate and they get worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden, like, you can't lose sight of your children until they're 18 years old and they're being sent off to college, and that's the first time that you ever have like a significant amount of distance and time away from your kid. So, you know, like those are real people who are thankfully deciding to go on the internet before they make these irrational decisions and calling CPS for parents that leave their 13-year-old child alone for a few hours, you know, and you're just like, you can't win. You cannot win no matter what you do. There's always going to be somebody that's just like not jiving with the decisions that you make. And again, it's like, just if everyone just minded their own business.
There's this meme that goes around. It basically is like saying reason 1,000 to not have children, and people just always add like different reasons to not have children. I was reading this, I was like, oh, I should add this to that list, like reading like what they go through. It's like reason whatever not wanting to have children.
Did reading this book for you guys, if you guys do want children in the future, did it change any perspectives or make you think about anything of like what you guys would do if you had children?
Danielle, you want to go first?
Sure. I've always had the idea that I wanted to adopt. And when she was describing at the very beginning, like what her life is like when it comes to going to work and not having like groceries at home, things like that, I was like, that's really relatable. And it is, like I mentioned earlier, like having kids really just makes me feel anxious. But at the same time, like I've managed to take care of myself for like 30 years. Like, I'm still here, I'm alive. Like, I think about the fact that I could raise someone to be as good as me or better. And I feel like that would contribute to society. So like I want to do that. But it just seems really, really scary because I think we realize that we don't have the support we would need if we were to be moms, like unless you choose a good partner, and even then they may end up cheating on you and leaving you when you're pregnant. So I don't know, a lot of it is like it just kind of highlighted a lot of the fears that I already had. So but at the same time, when they're going through all those exercises of like how to be a good mom, it's like it doesn't seem that hard to be a good mom. So I think it did give me a lot to think about. I don't know about Julia.
So this is actually a very appropriate question for me. I'm actually pregnant.
Oh my
Congratulations.
Um,
So exciting.
and yeah, this book had sort of a different perspective for me because I don't want to live in a society like this at all. And the whole idea that like mothers are nothing without their children, and like there's a quote on page 200 that says like a mother who is in harmony with her child, who understands her place in a child's life and her role in society, is never lonely. Through caring for her child, all her needs are fulfilled. And I was just like, okay, so like my life is over, like what if my life is over? And these are things that I've been thinking about for quite some time. Me and my husband, we've discussed all of this and really, really fleshed out what this is going to look like and just how it's going to look, and should we be doing this? Is this an ethical thing? Is this the right thing to do? And it wasn't ever like, I want to do this, let's do this, let's go for it. It was a very like arduous process of really just getting down to the nitty gritty of all of this, and making a conscious decision. So reading this book, I'm just like, God, I would be a terrible mother. because I feel like there's always shifts, there's always like undulations with mothers, and how even hearing from my mom how she was reared as a child in the 50s and the 60s, what did that look like, and my grandmother, she raised 3 children. She had 4. The youngest one died when he was 2, and she had to just like bottle her emotions because she had 3 other children to take care of. She was never given the time or the space or the capacity to like actually mourn the loss of her youngest child. She just had to keeping on. And like, my parents praise her for that. My parents say like, oh my gosh, she's, you know, she's this incredible mom because she did it. She just kept going. And I'm just like, wait, what? You know, like this, she didn't get the time to grieve for her youngest child, and she wasn't given the resources and everything. And you know, it's all about bottling your emotions. And with these different cultures that we've been reading, the Joy Luck Club, it's all about just bottling your emotions.
Yeah.
And now I feel like there's this sort of shift of women and mothers kind of taking back that notion that it's not about them. It's only about the child. It's only about the child. You have to give up like everything you are and everything you knew about yourself in order to raise this child. And I'm just like, I don't think that's going to be me. Like, I really don't think that's going to be me. I think you can't pour from an empty cup, first of all. And second of all, you know, like I've lived my whole life up until this point being the person that I am, and to just give that up willy-nilly seems like an insane thing to do. And that's probably what some mothers really struggle with. I know there are some mothers that like this is their calling, this is what they want to do. Never really felt that way. So it's going to be interesting. And I'm pregnant. That is happening to me, and I haven't made any sort of like real announcement yet. I've told my family, my mom knows, and my close family knows, and now you two know. So there you go. But
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Good, I
Hi,
know.
you're
You're gonna
welcome.
be such a good mother. You will not be sent to the school.
Don't put that pressure on me,
worry.
Natalie. I don't know if I'm gonna be a good mom. Okay.
How far along are you?
Huh?
How far along are you?
I'm 17 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in my second trimester. I'm like, I don't know if I'm just bloated or if I'm showing, but I'm definitely like feeling some changes happening. And I don't know what the gender is yet. We're gonna do a little gender reveal sometime next month, and that's pretty much it. But I'm probably not going to be like posting about it, you know. I don't know if I'm going to have some big social media announcement. I might just do it quietly and that'll just
No big brother. No big brother.
No big brother. I don't know. It's such a personal thing, and again, it was something that took a lot of mental just digging up, really just getting into the nooks and crannies of our brains, trying to figure out if we want to do this or not. And still to this day, I'm like, I don't know. And after reading this book, I'm like, well,
I mean, that's what I love how your mom said. It was like, it's parenting is very instinctual, because that's what, when I was reading this book, I was like, do people really like think about all these things like when they have children? You know, like, do they have all these like factors and variables like go through their minds? Like I don't have children, but I was thinking like for other things, for like my cats, like everything is always very instinctual and quick, and like I don't think about these things.
Yeah, I mean, you do what you have to do, but you know, but then what's left for you as a person and a human being? I feel like sometimes when mothers become mothers, they just lose themselves to a point where they don't even know who they were before they became moms. Like they just are not the same person. And that to me is like the scariest thing. To me, you know, I'm 34 years old. I've been on this planet as a childless person for 34, 35 years now. And to just kind of throw it away because I don't have the resources to be who I want to remain to be after becoming a mom. But you know, that all comes down to the village. Where's your village? Some people don't have a village, and that's really sad. I feel like I'm gonna be very, very fortunate with the amount of people that we're gonna have who are going to be helping us, especially in those first few months. I will not be the type of person that will be like, I don't want you in my house, please go away. I'm gonna be like, get in here.
Come over.
Come
Drop off
over
some
and
goodies.
do all these things because I
Yeah.
need some, I need to still remain who I am. And that's probably the thing that I'm gonna struggle with the most, is just still being able to be me, still be able to read. Like, God, I don't wanna be giving up reading.
Yeah.
You'll
That's-
read to your baby.
Yeah, I'll read them stories about like murders and and you know, Big Brother type scenarios. I mean, you know, I have considered that. I'm like, I'll just read whatever I'm reading to them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna know the
I
difference.
heard, oh, wait, I don't know if I heard this or if it was in the book. I cannot remember. But somewhere it was about saying or speaking 10,000 words to like a baby so that their vocabulary will develop.
Mhm. It's a
I don't know if
lot.
that was in the book. I can't remember. But no, what I was gonna say is a lot of my friends my age are already on their first baby or their second baby, and it's definitely what I've noticed, like the most important thing for them to be able to still look after themselves and have that emotional awareness, like, okay, I need to, like you said, right, like be okay first because you can't pour from an empty cup. The key to what really helps them is having that support, and they mainly get that from their partners.
Mhm.
So it really, like, for me, it's just highlighted, like, even if I don't get married, just if I choose to be with someone, like, it has to be a good person, because the person that you're having your children with, like, it's gonna make or break, that whole experience. And I'm sure you have a lovely partner.
Oh, he's
doing
gonna be
this.
Mr. Mom.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the
That's
one
support.
leaving the house and having a job outside the home and having a life outside the home. And you know, that again,
Yeah.
that was another thing we had to like come to terms with. Is
Mhm.
sort of like this gender role reversal where I'm
Mhm.
gonna be the one who has a life and relationships outside the home, whereas
Um,
he's working from home and probably will stay home through all of this. So then he says, bring it on.
That's
So,
awesome.
all right,
Yeah.
sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I think it's definitely very important to like keep true to yourself and your identity. And like obviously things are gonna change, but like this child will like add to your life and not become like 100% your life.
yeah,
Because like
I
when I have
mean,
kids, I still want to travel. I still want to do the things I like to do.
yeah, I know, and that's the
Yeah.
same that again was another like big point of I wouldn't say conflict, but just a big talking point is like, what
Mhm.
about traveling? Because obviously we both like to travel. I travel for work. I have to travel. What's that gonna look like? And everyone says, oh, your life is gonna be basically over, at least for the first several years. You're
Doesn't
just
have
gonna
to
have to
be.
give up all of those luxuries. And I'm always the type of person that's like, watch me, like watch
Mhm.
me, I'll do it. I don't need you to tell me that this isn't gonna work, because I'll make it work. And then I'll be like, it was never that hard. It was
Yeah.
never that serious, like it was never that serious. But who knows? I might get totally humbled by the time September runs around.
When's the due date? September
9th,
9th. Okay.
9/9, which is very auspicious because that is my grandfather's birthday. So the grandfather that my mother was talking about, that's his birthday. Yeah. So that's kind of nice and full circle. And I wanted to ask my mom about this whole motherese, the
Mhm.
motherese. I don't really remember my mom talking to me in that sort of way, but you don't remember how they were talking to you at a really young age, you know?
Mhm.
I just feel like my mom always kind of spoke to me like an adult. And Garrison's mom was the same. She always prided herself in saying, I never spoke to my children in baby talk, like
And
even
I heard
being
that
baby-
that's supposed to be the best.
huh?
I've heard that that's the best thing to do is to just talk normal.
Well,
Not
in
like-
this book, they're saying, oh, you
Yeah.
have to speak to them in the most insane, happy-go-lucky voice, ever. And I wanted to ask if either of you were spoken to that way growing up. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think I was.
You think
Yeah.
you think your mom was sort of use the mother as language, or
Yeah, and I'm trying to think like seeing if she does that like with my nephew now, and I think they do that, and I'm more on the other end where like I am more like I try to like have conversations and speak more like an adult, and I feel like I do
Yeah.
that with my cats too, and I'm just like bored and like like I talk to them like they're humans and adults, and
Yeah,
so
I don't
it's interesting. I don't know if that's more like an old-fashioned like perspective and like that's why she does it, but like thinking like my nephew, like his parents, my brother and his wife, I think they kind of do that too. Have that more like baby
goo kind of thing.
yeah, baby conversation, and I don't know, I think it's weird. Like it's something I don't really understand.
I don't think I'll be doing it, honestly. I'll just be like, what? What do you need? Tell me, I'll figure it out, I don't know. It's all gonna be just a big learning curve. But yeah, that's happening. And I honestly I didn't really choose this book because I'm pregnant and I'm expecting, but it definitely made me realize that things could be really, really bad. And even though they're kind of bad, they're not that bad.
Yeah, at least we're not there.
At least I won't, there's no threat of me going to, I mean, they didn't even know that there was a school until they were sent there, because it was this new thing and a new program, X, Y, and Z. But,
Yeah.
mothers moving forward, obviously they're going to learn about this program, and it's going to be like the same thing as, if you do this, you'll be sent to jail. Oh, if you do this, you'll be sent to the school for good mothers, and they're kind of probably treated the same.
And
It's like
I keep going back.
thing.
I keep going back to the thought about the one mother who posted the child who had the tantrum on social media, and I keep going back to like my own personal thought when my nephew was a baby. I took a video of him crying because it was like hilarious for like the memory, and I didn't post it on social media, but like I don't really interpret that as like a bad thing. It's like he's so cute when he cries, even though he's like miserable. Like it's adorable. Even when I was at his house like a few months ago and he had like the worst tantrum his parents said that he's had to date, and like at first like I thought it was cute, and then like I understand more of like the seriousness and how they're trying to teach him um like that he can't throw his food that he's eating on the floor all the time. But
I feel like I'm
it's-
gonna struggle with that a lot. Just being
it
like,
is it's so cute. It's like,
it is cute, but it's also completely illogical. Like yeah, it's all gonna be, for me, it's all gonna be like kid logic.
Yeah.
I just have to work with kid logic. And kid logic is not logical.
You'll figure it all out. And you have a
I hope
partner,
so.
and you have friends and family, and lots of nieces and nephews to see all the experience already. So
Yeah, a lot of group effort and group support, definitely.
Yeah, I really do feel bad for all the pandemic parents. I like, they really were dealt an extremely shitty hand, and I feel like they deserve like
Compensation.
a $10,000 check. At least, like if you had a child between the months of April 2020 and I don't know, December 2021 or whatever, here's $10,000. Go crazy. We don't care how you use it. Just use it. Just go to the spa or something.
Definitely.
Send your kid to camp and don't even think about them for like 3 whole months or something,
are you gonna get leave when you have your baby?
Yeah, there's a couple options. I can do FMLA, which is 12 weeks unpaid. And then we also like very, very nice timing. Our company just started offering 10 weeks paid. I don't think it's full pay, but it is still paid disability leave for women recovering from birth. So
I can't believe Virginia FMLA is nothing. That's so sad.
well, I mean, it's 12 week. I think they just go off of what the federal government says, which is the 12 weeks unpaid. So I might be able to use both like layer them. So I'll use one type of leave and then go into the next type of leave. And by that time, Garrison will have been at his job for a whole year. So you can't get FMLA until you work for a company for a year, because heaven forbid something happens. You can't have anything happen to you that first year that you work at a job. It's just not possible. We're not going to take care of you at all. So he can't get FMLA leave until he reaches that 1 year mark, which is like, I think January. So by the time that comes around, when my leave will technically be up, he'll be able to start his leave. So I can go back to work and he can stay home. So, well, I mean, he'll be home, but not working. So hopefully it'll work out. I'm kind of late to the party, but I needed to order some maternity uniforms and I still have not received the things I need in order to order it. And I need to get a new uniform, like, so
they're not stretchy enough.
yeah, no, it's really starting to get tight on me, and I'll probably do the thing where I just can't even zip up my skirt anymore. I'll just have it.
Yeah, you're right at the point where
uniform.
you're gonna start like really bumping maybe soon in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little something down there already. So, it's kind of like that point where everyone's like, is she, or is she just that?
Like when Rihanna performed at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I feel like right away. I was like, she's so pregnant.
Yeah, I was like, she's because she went like this, like she did the whole, thing.
Yeah.
But the camera was panning away, so you could really, I don't know. I feel like if they did the camera work a little bit different, everyone would have been like, yeah, she's pregnant, and not is she or isn't she. And then it took them to get to a press conference and for them to like actually figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Rihanna can be pregnant and do that, I can do things too, I guess.
Yeah.
You can do anything you want to do, Julia. You keep doing Julia. Keep reading your future baby, all these interesting books.
And
Yeah,
maybe
I try
they
not to
can
read
do
too
a
much
guest
about-
appearance on the discussions.
Yeah, definitely. Like puts a whole spin
Yeah.
on things.
Yeah.
And I'll have to find, there's maybe some other books. I don't know, we'll see if there are any other books kind of like this where it just kind of puts things into for an interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we have this book to look forward to this month.
Oh, the perfume book.
Yeah, if the book is anything like the movie, I know how it's gonna end, which is fine because it's actually insane.
Yeah.
I
really like the side story you added in the email because I like the designer and I was
Terry
like,
Mugler.
"Oh,
Yeah.
yes." And I was like, wow, that's so crazy.
Initially, I thought it was like, oh, he created like 5 of these sets. And the person who told me about it back in the day, he was like, yeah, so I know the store in Wilmington has this really rare perfume set, and if you beg and plead enough, they'll show you to it and you can sample some of the smells. And then I looked into it before I sent the email and I was like, oh, he made 1,300. I mean, that's not 5, but it's not a ton either.
Yeah.
So, the fact that this place has one of those perfume sets. I got to smell, I think, the smell of a baby, which everyone thinks is like baby powder and stuff, but
What was that like?
I don't
Did they have
remember
all of the
exactly.
sets or just
Kind of
some?
smelled like maybe someone said it smelled like vomit or something. Like
Baby vomit has a distinct smell.
yeah. Like
Yeah, maybe that's
it's not vomit in the typical sense of what we think vomit smells like. It's like
Mhm.
milk,
Yeah.
Everything's different, like with the milk, and even like the poop doesn't smell when they're young.
Mhm.
Is that true?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, baby poop, it doesn't smell until you start incorporating food.
Okay, so once you start incorporating food, then that's when everyone starts to be like, "Ugh," when they're changing the diapers and
Yeah, because otherwise it's just like, yeah, there's no smell.
And
It's
it's
just
not-
like,
much.
it's not a lot
even-
either.
Yeah, it's not even solid at the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's just
Yeah, it's just mush.
everything's just liquid going in, coming out, coming back up. Yeah. But this will be really good. I'm very excited to read this book and see how it pans out. But just know that it's insane, okay? I warned you. It's insane. It's very sinister. And the end is like, what the fuck? If it's the same ending that is the movie. And then
That is the
maybe
movie.
watch the movie.
I
too.
actually rented the movie, but I missed the pickup date, so I have to try to get it.
Okay. Yeah, the movie that has actually Dustin Hoffman, surprisingly, is in that movie.
Is it Alan Rickman too? Or
Maybe
maybe
I
they
don't
had
know.
it at the library, so you might be able to
And then
find
what's
that
his face?
ending.
Ben something, he always gets cast as like a really kind of crazy person. Oh, Ben Winshaw. Oh yeah, Alan Rickman, he's in it. Mhm.
Yeah, I saw him on the cover and I was like, okay, I have to also get the DVD.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. You're gonna have a time.
Should I read the book first or watch the movie first?
I would read the book first, honestly.
Book
Yeah,
first.
I would read
always.
the book first. I
Okay.
kind of wish that I did read the book first because knowing the ending or what I think the ending is, reading that just sounds a whole lot more like immersive and insane than watching it. And even still watching the movie, like I said, I was probably when I watched it, but I was just like, all me and my friends were like, like how? What happened? How did this happen? It's insane, but it's genius. And it's like, oh gosh, it's really, yeah. I'm very excited. I don't want to talk about it anymore because I just want to like start reading it. I'm not going to read it right now, but I am very excited.
I
Julie,
can't
how,
wait.
Julia, how was your first trimester? Sorry, I'm just so excited for your pregnancy.
Honestly, if it weren't for the missed periods, I would have never thought I was pregnant.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. No morning sickness, and that's awesome.
No, there was 2 instances where my body just kind of said, I'm done, and you're not going to do anything else the rest of the day. And unfortunately, unfortunately, one of those times I was at work, but it was my last day. It was my last turn of this trip. And my body was just like, no. I wasn't like I was sick, like I had any sort of specific illness or anything to attribute to it being a headache or something. My body was just like, you need to go home and you need to get in bed. And I did, and I slept for like 12 hours or something. It was wonderful. And then the other time I was on leave. I don't know, maybe you guys were here, but I took my company offered leave in February and I took it because I didn't know how the first trimester was going to go. And I was like, oh, I'll just take this leave. And, if I end up feeling like crap the whole time, then at least I knew I didn't call out sick from work every other day, but it was nothing. I really just felt fine and I still feel fine. I've been working out, I still try to work out every day. The bronchitis kind of threw me for a loop. And now I'm just like, just starting to get back into my routine and getting back into the gym and stuff like that, because I feel like I'm not training for me. I'm training for labor, like that's what I'm training for. I'm trying to be the type of labor and delivery patient that is just like,
Let's go.
let's go in and out. I don't want to be here for too long. And apparently if you do, consistently work out in your pregnancy, the chances of you having a faster and easier birth is a lot higher. So
Oh, nice. Awesome. Keep up my workout schedule.
yeah.
That's interesting with your job. Like, are there any special considerations like towards the end of your pregnancy, like with travel? Because like I know there's, the last trimester, especially like or especially like the last month. I don't know how often you are able to fly.
Yeah, so the standard is they want anyone who's pregnant, I think, maybe not just specifically crew members, but pretty much no flying after 32 weeks, which is technically 2 months before my due date. So that's 2
Wow.
months of like, okay, I'm not flying, but that's literally my job. So what can I do in the meantime? It's really hard because the industry and how my employment is set up is like, I can't do another job. Like my job is my job. I can't.
Your job puts you in there.
Yeah, like I can't. A lot of people are like, oh, well, can't you just be a gate agent? I'm like, that's a different company. That's a different job. Like I would have to quit my job and then go through training to be a gate agent and then be a gate agent. Like there's, I can't just not fly and continue to be a flight attendant. But there are I'm trying to communicate with my base supervisor to see if there is something I can do in that sort of 2 months period. So I'm
Maybe
not
there's
having
like,
to take leave.
yeah, maybe there's
I
like
don't
extra
want to.
trainings they can put you through. And
Yeah, there's a couple there's a position that I can, hopefully they can offer me. Maybe they can just open it up to me which is where I stay at the airport, and I just go around to different gates and help the flight attendants that are coming in, and you know, any sort of thing like that. That's an option. There may be something in the office for me to do. I don't know. My supervisor, she wasn't in the office today, so I have to wait and see if they're gonna respond to me
Puede
tomorrow.
pasar.
Okay.
Sí, no se preocupe.
Okay, gracias.
De nada.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope they're
Well,
really like
Sí, no, no
helpful
mucho.
and
Gracias.
receptive, like for that. So it's not like, you know, this is your job, like you shouldn't be punished like for being pregnant.
Well, yeah, I know, and that's a whole other thing that I had to discuss, is like, how are we gonna make this work? Because I'm not quitting my job. I don't want to quit my job. You know, I wanna stay in this career for as long as I can, and how are we gonna make it work? And so, yeah, they made it easier with this leave, and that's really great. And they're being more progressive. There's more stuff that our company is doing to help families or people who want to start families. But once you become a parent, I feel like the resources are really, really limited. Like even breastfeeding, you know, if I decide to breastfeed, I don't know. I have no idea. Not putting that type of pressure on me to like absolutely do one thing or the other. But you know, like pumping at work, how am I supposed to make that work when you know, there's the Pump Act that was just enacted in December, and it was saying like all the companies in the United States, if you are over this amount of employees, you have to create a space for women to be able to pump. You have to create time, and you have to create space, and it has to be sanitary. It can't be like a toilet stall or something like that. And so literally all these companies all across the world have done that. But
It's an airplane.
so the Pump Act originally did have flight crew as part of it. They were like, oh yeah, everyone, including flight crew, you will get these amenities for you so that women who are breastfeeding or pumping can do so in a safe and sanitary and private environment. And then our fun little airline people, the people who lobby for the airports, they walked over to the Capitol and they said, no, not us, not flight crew. We're not going to do that. And you need to remove them from the bill. You can have everyone else, but not flight crew. And the people who wrote the bill, legislators, they said, okay. And they removed flight crew from the bill. So I am not protected under the Pump Act as a flight crew person.
Ridiculous.
But they're like, but you can still pump, like you can still pump, it's fine. You just can't do it here. You can't do it here. You can't do it during takeoff and landing. And you know, the bathroom is perfectly sufficient for you to pump. What am I supposed to do when there's only one lavatory on the plane and I have to be in there for like 15-20 minutes at a time? That's okay. Like you're saying that's okay because you didn't want to make the necessary changes to your schedule and accommodations because we're in such a unique industry.
Have you had any coworkers have had recent pregnancies and like seen what they've gone through in their experiences?
Not yet. I know a few people, but I haven't been able to see / talk with them. I did have a woman, a passenger who was pumping on my plane on my last trip, and I wanted to strike up a conversation with her, but she looked exhausted. Like I let her sit in the back row so she could have a little bit of privacy. But she was just like, she was like this, you know, like she did not want to talk to me or anybody else. She just wanted to sit there and pump. And I was like, all right, I'm not gonna talk to her about all of this right now because I don't think she wants to partake. So I'm hoping that I do speak with some people who have some knowledge about it. I've done research, you know, and it's like, okay, well, I have to pump because I don't have the child to feed. So I have to be able to carry all of that with me, and I have to keep it cold enough, and I have to make sure that everything is sanitary, and it's gonna be a whole thing. It's just gonna be a whole thing. And the airlines certainly did not make it any easier for us. That's just gonna be another sort of hurdle that I'm just gonna say, oh, I can't do that. Watch me, I'll do it.
Mhm.
I'll do it. I know there's women who have done it. I mean, like international flight attendants who are like, oh yeah, I pumped for my baby in Thailand, and I pumped for my baby in Paris last week. And, I just have to take all these extra steps to be able to do it. And it's a pain in the ass, but I don't have a choice. I have to.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're gonna figure it out. You'll do an awesome job.
Yeah.
Might just have to walk over to Congress myself and be like, look,
Put us back in there.
it's a woman dominated industry and you're not helping, and I need your help, really. I do.
Yeah, as a society, we could do more to help mothers, I think is what the goal of this book was to show.
Yeah, give mothers more time off. 2 to 3 months is not enough time
Yeah,
with a newborn.
the algorithm knows that I'm pregnant, and it sends me stuff, and and it's like, oh, here are all the amenities we have as new mothers in Finland, and here's all the amenities that we have as new mothers in Spain.
Mhm.
And then sometimes it's like what is it, remixed or duetted with an American mom.
Oh
They're
yeah,
totally frazzled, and they've got like this baby on their nip, and they're just like,
I should move.
God, yeah, I know. The
Yeah.
system is rigged against us.
Yeah,
But yay,
but we will persevere.
we will
True.
persevere, because it's instinctual, and we have no choice.
Yes.
Instinctual.
And there's no school, nothing to be afraid of.
Doesn't need to be this standardized quantitative thing. It can be just what it is.
Yeah, I would fail that school so bad.
Yeah, like some of the stuff they said, like, oh, you have to be 100% devoted, and it's like you would never be lonely with your child because your child fulfills your needs of loneliness. I'd be like,
No, so many mothers are lonely and suffer from depression
do you know
and
what I'm talking about? Do you even
Yeah.
know? Do you understand the words that are coming out of your mouth? Because I'm pretty sure you don't. Yeah, I mean, it's all gaslighting. Again, it's just a school for gaslighters.
But you know what's refreshing? I feel like nowadays, it's a lot more transparent. People are more transparent with their emotions, where maybe in our parents' time, you had to kind of just keep up the charade that everything's fine, everything's great. And I feel like in being honest with yourself and like what you need, and expressing that to your partner, to your family, to your friends, like, just speaking up for yourself, it's going to be so important for your child to see that, to see you do the things that you love and not give them up,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lesson for them.
It'll be an interesting dynamic for sure. Again, this like sort of shift in a paradigm shift, really. It goes from your children are, and there is a huge movement for it. Again, the algorithm is showing me so much stuff, and like sometimes I just have to throw my phone on the other side of the room and be like, this is too much. It's too much information. I don't want to be learning all of this right now. It's way too overwhelming. But there is like this movement of mothers who are like, all of this stuff that we were taught, and all the stuff that our parents taught us, and the parents before, obviously there's generational trauma, and we can discuss that any other time. But in terms of like what you need to do for yourself is something that was just like never discussed before, that when you become a mom, you just, that's it, that's all you are. You're just a mom, you're not a person, and your kids might not even think of you as a human being, you know, like you are separate from what they think humans and other people are,
Yeah.
because you separate yourself from that humanness so much in order to be a mother. Whereas now there are women who are saying, absolutely not, this is not healthy, this is not sustainable, this is not how anyone wants to live their life. If they're mother or not, if they wanted the child or not, it doesn't matter. You are still a whole human person who has your own thoughts and opinions and hobbies and what makes you you, and you shouldn't have to give that up. And you know, even my mother-in-law a couple weeks ago, when I told her I was pregnant, she said something like, oh, people who put themselves before their children, you know, just offhanded comment, people who put themselves before their children, well, they shouldn't have children. And I wanted to be like, well, how do you expect us to be, how do you expect us to be parents if, again, if you can't pour from an empty cup, you have to be able to take care of yourself. And
You have to put your on oxygen mask on first to save others.
Exactly.
preaching to the choir, Natalie.
No, I
Exactly.
totally agree. I'm like, when I'm like a parent in the future, like I will be putting myself first.
Yeah. And yet I might get vilified for that. There might be people who say that is absolutely the wrong thing to do, and you are putting your family and your child at risk by doing that. And I'm just going to be like, cool, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna have a lot of opinions, especially around parenting and
Yeah, I know. Like we're about to send out, we're gonna have a gender reveal next month, and that's how we're announcing it to our friends. Because that's what we said. We're like, we're not gonna be making some big announcement. We'll literally send you the invite for the gender reveal, and that's all you know, that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And I just know, because I'm the last one in my friend group, in my husband's friends group, that has a child or is going to have a child. Some of them, again, they're on their second child. And you know, whenever we go out to eat or whenever we go out with them and they got their kids, they're always just like, you guys have so much to look forward to. Like, this is going to be so great, you know? And even we went out to dinner with them a couple weeks ago, and I knew I was pregnant, and they were just like, so is this like the most exciting thing for you, is just seeing our kids just run around and be total brats the whole time? And me and Garrison were just like, yeah. And as soon as I tell them, they're gonna be like, we have so much to tell you. I'll be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Keep it to yourself.
yeah, so many opinions. It's definitely important to like stay true to your and the Garrison's values, and like figure out like what works for you guys. Like as parents, it's gonna look different for everyone.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, just there's a really great Casey Musgrave song called Mind Your Own Biscuits and Life Will Be Gravy. And just like, I want to embody that so much with becoming a mother. Like, I honestly, there are parts of social media and Instagram and the algorithm that are actually really helpful, and there are things that I'm learning. And then it turns right around and it becomes this like really sinister thing where it's like, you can't do that. That is so bad, and that will ruin your kid's life. And you're just like, the thing that I just learned was supposed to be good is actually not good. It's like saying eggs are good, and then the next day eggs are bad, and you can't win no matter what you do. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to, as much as I want to know, I'm actually trying to avoid as much as possible, because I just want to shape my own opinions and my own thoughts and have my own.
Totally understandable. It's like,
you know, people who read everything the moment they find out. They're just like, read, they read everything. No, I'm not gonna be that person.
You're not gonna read everything?
I'm not gonna read everything. I know, it goes against everything that I've
Wow.
taught in this world. But again, I don't want to give up the books that I'm reading, and I'm reading what I need to know for this specific time frame. Like, I'm reading what I need to know for the 5th month. I know everything that's supposed to happen this month. And then when 6 months comes around, I will read that. And I'm not trying to
Get overwhelmed.
yeah, it would be overwhelmed. And again, with like social media, like my Bookstagram, I actually like really can't stand it right now, because Bookstagram is just everything is just parents, mothers, children, infants, how to do this, how to do that. And so like, I'm actually kind of avoiding my Instagram right now, and I'm trying really hard to change the algorithm by like not trying to watch those videos and liking things that are non-kids related, but it still is just like totally
Yeah.
burying me
I
in
think-
stuff. So
I
I'm
think
not really on my Bookstagram as much as I used to be, because I'm just like, I don't want to look at it.
I think right now you're like, getting bombarded with all this information, but when the time comes, you'll just have this clarity and you'll know in your heart and soul what you got to do, and it'll be good.
Instinctual. Hopefully I have it. I don't know. Like my mom said, I mean, my mom has always been very doting towards babies. She always had baby dolls growing up, and she loved taking care of my uncle, and then my other uncle before he died at age 2. She was just very, very doting on babies. And then when I was, when she had me, she was trying to force baby dolls on me, and I didn't care about baby dolls. I wanted the horses and the teddy bears and the stuffed animals. Like, that's what I wanted. And I'm sure that sent off a red flag for her, just being like, why don't you like baby dolls? And I'm like, because I don't want to take care of them. I want like a dog, so who knows if I have the instinct or not. We'll see.
You'll have your own instinct, like you'll have your own way of parenting, and I think that's all what matters.
We'll all have our own way of parenting. But
Yeah,
you
like
don't
there's
have to-
no
you
right
don't have
or
to be a parent. There is
wrong way to parent.
there is no wrong way to parent, and you don't have to even be one, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true.
You shouldn't ever feel bad.
Yeah, can parent animals and really test you, and try not to yell
Yeah.
at your animals when they're vomiting all over your bed.
Parent yourself if you need to.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely important.
Yeah.
Well, that went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just so excited for you, Julia.
So that'll go on YouTube, and then they'll be like, look,
Oh.
this isn't even the book club anymore. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Sorry if you're still watching this weeks from now. And this is
Surprise.
you're watching. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Adina.
Yeah, happy birthday,
yeah.
Gina. I don't know if you watch these, maybe you do, but there's the
She said she's gonna watch
the
it.
Easter egg. You had to watch all the way to the end for us to give you your Easter egg. Okay, well, it's 11 o'clock, dear God. Thank you for hanging out with me. Well, for not for Daniela, but
No worries.
but it's still a long time to be on a Zoom call with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for reading this book. And that was a good discussion. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone, and congratulations. I can't
Yeah.
wait to hear
Yes,
more.
congrats again.
Don't tell anybody. It's a secret.
No
For
worries.
now.
Take care, guys.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.